no discussion, all those in favor?
Are we silent
How about you?
under the table?
I was absent, so I'm going to abstain.
All right.
Okay.
Still passes.
Okay, communication. I do have some communication. First communication is from the Lions Club. Barbara Sherman, and she says, on Wednesday, that's tomorrow, May 18th, East Windsor Lions are holding a small memorial service to honor years of service of of our members who passed away this year. We are pleased to have some of the high school chorus perform at the event. It will be held East Windsor Park on Reservoir Avenue, Broadbrook, starting at 6:30 p.m. And we would like to extend you an invitation. A light dessert will be served afterwards. And she also mentions their names. That's Lion Don Bartlett and Lion Dan Goldman. Together they gave over 100 years of service to the East Windsor Lions and in turn the town. So that's tomorrow night at 6:30. And also, I had some correspondence and communication from His Excellency Daniel P. Malloy Governor. And what he did is declare this week Public Works Week. And he went on to commend the public works around the state. And so the week of May 15th through the 21st is Public Works Week. And that's my communication.
Could we post a copy of this at each main entrance of town-owned and operated facilities?
We could do that.
We should do that with this and other such proclamations that come out, if it's like, you know, whatever other ones that they do. But this is the type of thing that would draw attention to what the intention is to draw attention to.
Okay.
Make sure we get one of Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works, the town garage especially.
Okay. That would be a good place for it.
Oh, should be town hall annex. Schools, yeah.
All right.
Well, we can't do the schools.
Does a motion have to be made and all that?
No.
I don't want to have to pay $10 million for the term to interpret that.
That's true. Okay, there's no more communication, I guess? And then we'll move on to appointments.
For public participation.
Oh, we skip over that all the time.
You couldn't. It's okay. Tricky problem.
Time for public participation. Does anybody have? Jim?
The actual reason I'm here. I'm here tonight at Jim Richards, 27 Pleasant Street. I'm here tonight as the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce to announce this year's Chamber of Commerce Business Person of the Year is Christopher Davis. He's our state rep, but he also is a businessman in town. From what he claims, he's got the highest real estate listings, him and I'll argue about that, but I'm sure he'll win. But we are honoring at our annual 21st meeting of the Chamber of Commerce on the 22nd of June at 5:30 in the evening at the Nutmeg Restaurant. There'll be cocktails, dinner, cost is $30. And that's what I'm announcing.
Thank you. Any more public participation?
I'm just going to make a comment on the added agenda items. I think it might be unfair to the members of the Board of Finance to the dialogue with the ones that are here. They haven't had an opportunity to be here.
Agreed. But I think at least the board.
I'm just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. It's like, I don't think you guys would like it if it happened. If a couple of selectmen were at the Board of Finance meeting and they were represented as the Board of Select. Just throwing it out there.
Okay. We received it.
I
Kathy?
don't think it's 37 Mill Road. I'll have to second John on that. Plus, what bothers me more is that Mr. Dearborn is a liaison to the Board of Finance and should know all the answers he's asking his questions to. They shouldn't be in front of us at all. He also should be on WPCA that he doesn't show up for. Now, this isn't fair because there are others that show up for everything. So I don't care for the question. I think he should know the answers already. Thank you.
Okay. Any further public participation? Yeah.
Kirk Monstream, I'd like to say thank you to the Public Works Department. We're doing a little thing with the water over at the garden in the dog park. I think that's a great thing, and a lot of participation, and a lot of ideas going around. I think it's a great thing, and thank you.
Further public participation? Okay, hearing none, what I'd like to do is, I had a request for the Veterans Project to take our agenda items out of order and take the new business Veterans Memorial Project and talk about that now. So I'd entertain a motion to take the Veterans Memorial Project out of order and take it now. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, veterans, you have the floor.
Jim Barton, Chairman of the Veterans Commission, and have here tonight our Vice Chairman Rick Webster, Bob Light, Scott Morgan, Mary Morgan, Ed Philippone is here, and what we want to do is present a project that we are contemplating for the town green.
Could you turn that so everybody? Maybe move that box.
So, it's been several years. The Veterans Commission was thinking about the different monuments and memorials that we have in town for veterans and so forth. And this goes back even when George Butenkoff was alive and was one of our members. And we were thinking about doing something somewhere, and we didn't know here or the Historical Society or the Town Green or whatever. A few years ago, the idea was revived because there was a question about some names on the monuments out here. We finally decided to try to do something on the town green that would honor all veterans of East Windsor, past and present, and specifically those killed in action. And so the design that we came up with is this here. And, you know, Jay from J.R. Russo has helped us a lot already with the planning and the designs and things. What we have on our town green is a monument in the corner that identifies the town green as the Joe Tracy Veterans Memorial Green. We have the flagpole, and we have a very nice monolith here that was put there by the American Legion in this town in 1938. And what we propose to do is put 8 more tablets in a kind of a curved thing here with pavers and a few benches. And those are going to be inscribed, as I said, to honor veterans of 8 of our most important wars: Revolutionary, 1812, Civil, 1, 2, Korea, Vietnam, and the Middle East conflicts. We're also going to put insignias on there for the different branches of service, and then also an inscription with the names of people who were actually killed in action. So that's what we're proposing to do. In addition, we want to make the space more open for our Memorial Day ceremonies, because we have those down there, and it's really a busy place right now. A lot of the trees have grown up, and so we want to open it up and take some of that stuff out And we can have a space where we can have our ceremonies, and we can have, some other kind of gatherings, summer concerts or something. I've talked to, Melissa from Parks and Rec about something like that. So, let me ask Jay to talk a little bit about the design at this point.
Thank you. Jay Ursu, J.R. Russo. Up here in front of us, we've got a plan showing basically the area of the park itself, which is here in green. To the bottom of the page is Main Street. Over here, to the right-hand side of the page is Bridge Street, which is 140. Main Fish is directly across the street. Diagonally across this way is the Geisler's Plaza. Over here is the bank, church, and then we've got the library here, and then the former Masonic building, which I think is an apartment building at this time, to the west of us. There's currently a sidewalk that winds its way around, kind of following the street, and there's another concrete walk that goes across on a diagonal, basically right through the middle of the park itself from one side to the other. There's a number of existing trees along the side of the sidewalk here. We're going to keep one of those. The rest of them are in pretty rough shape. They really should be taken down. We're going to remove those. As Jim had mentioned, there's a fair amount of vegetation that's in here now. This is where the existing monument is. There's some rhododendrons that have really grown up. They're quite large. We'd like to take all of those out. There's some crab apples throughout here that are not in the best of shape. We'd also like to remove those. There's some Norway spruce in the back here that are not in the greatest of shape. We'd like to remove those. These are existing trees that remain. These would be new trees. And then there'd be a series of plantings around the monuments, the new monuments, and the paver banner, as I call it, along with the benches. In addition to that, we would like to bring power to the site. Currently, there is no power available there. They have a ceremony, they bring in a portable generator to plug something into that so that they can use a microphone. We're proposing to bring in a power pedestal here off of the existing utility pole. That will be located over here. That'll be screened with some maiden grass that I'm showing up here. There's a photograph of the pedestal here. It basically is a power meter with outlets to plug in so that they'll have some power there, and that would come off of the pole. Now, that's one thing that the Board of Selectmen in the town would be interested in. You're going to get a monthly bill from CL&P or from Eversource, I guess now, for this, and we're told that the service probably runs somewhere around $30 a month to have that there, to have the availability of the power. We'll also be installing a new light here to illuminate the flagpole. Currently, there is no light there. There's a detail of that here. That's going to go right behind this existing monument so that it won't be visible from the street, and we'll be able to illuminate the pole from that location. There'll be planting beds along the sides of the pavers itself. Those are shown here in the lighter brown. And basically more low-growing perennial type plants. We're going to go with some shrub roses. We've got some Yugo pine. There's going to be granite benches installed at either end. Those are shown here. Some smaller ornamental grasses over here that will be mixed in amongst the shrub roses, and some other plantings along the sides here. So it'll be more low-growing material versus what's in there now. There's some stuff that's pretty high. So this is more visible from the street, more of a lawn area. So there's room for folks to gather here when they're having a ceremony, whether it be Memorial Day or the 4th of July or whatever it might be. So that's more or less a basic overview of what the Veteran Commission is proposing, and here this evening to kind of tell you a little bit about it and hopefully get a positive reaction and allow us to move forward and hopefully get into some fundraising to try and get the money to put this together.
What we'd like to do is get your approval at this point to move forward and to raise money. You know, I'm looking at a goal of $60,000. So I need to raise a lot of money, and especially if we might do this by next Memorial Day, we need to get started. So that's why we're here tonight. I think in your package you had a copy of the sign ordinance, an exception to the sign ordinance. We're gonna wanna put a 4x8 sign on that green, looking for donations. And I believe, signs are supposed to be restricted at this point to 12 square feet. But there is an exception in the zoning regs. Now, I don't know if we have to go back to zoning, to ask for that exception or whatnot, but I put a copy of that exception in your packages in case you guys are the body to approve that. Because what we would be looking at would be probably a 4x8 sign, and one of those things which has the information about what we're doing, the information of where to donate, and one of those thermometer things that shows the goal. So we want to move forward with all that. The pavers are things that we're going to be selling, much like we do at the cemetery now. We sell bricks over there, inscribed bricks for $35. We would want to do the same thing with these pavers. They're going to be 6x9 light gray pavers, which we would sell for probably $35 or whatever as part of the fundraising. We're going to try every bit of different type of fundraising that we can to try to raise this money. The power was another thing, as Jay said, that is going to incur some cost to the town, so we wanted to talk about that. It seems like when we went to planning and zoning, Jim Thurs thought there would be a meter and a basic monthly charge of $30, $35 for that. In terms of the light, we need to illuminate that flag. It's not illuminated now. And the light that we're specifying would only use $3.50 a month, based on 12 hours a day and current Eversource rates. But there would probably be a basic meter charge. So that's a cost to be incurred to the town. In terms of the pavers, we would want everybody to get them quickly because there's probably only going to be 3,600 of them there. So we'll want everybody to put their orders in as soon as they could.
Where's your order?
We have an order form coming. So,
That's $126,000.
yeah, try to sell 3,600.
How many are you buying, Jason?
All right, I'll definitely buy them. I'll buy them. Got two of them.
So, we've tried to keep the maintenance down to a minimum because, I know the town crew mows the lawn down there, but, the maintenance is gonna be a different issue. We're gonna see Len tomorrow about these trees. Take care of that. I'm gonna see the Rotary people, because they have a bench down there. They have a nice cemetery grade bench that they've installed down there for Ravenbrook. We're gonna do what we have to do with that to take care of them. So, questions?
Discussion, I think under the sign exemptions, it says, A, public signs of a non-conforming, non-commercial nature and in the public interest erected by or on the order of a public official in the performance of his duty are exempt. So if we authorize your sign, it's exempt. And the institutional takes care of it also. Announcement on any public charitable, I don't see where shouldn't be a big problem.
This is a prototype of a brochure that we're gonna make. We're gonna try to get it together soon to pass it out. We're probably gonna mail it out, or we can pass this around and look at it.
Can I add a bit about the timeliness of the project? finalizing this is about 4 months. The timeliness right now of getting the fundraising signs up, the brochures into the hands of the public and everything is Memorial Day, less than 2 weeks away. So if we get some approvals to go ahead with the thing, we can go ahead and incur the cost of the sign making, the printing of the brochures, and come up with a budget.
Any discussion? I think we need a motion, don't you?
Well, I would, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
What I would say, yeah, okay, go ahead.
No, good.
John, we can discuss
Okay.
after.
I'll make a motion that we endorse the plan for the East Windsor Veterans Commission wholeheartedly and urge them to go ahead as planned. We'll do everything we can to help them. And then, did we miss anything? Do we need any more? There we go.
Okay.
You get a second also?
I'll second it.
Okay. Do you want to read that back? No.
I do that at home.
It may be a little different, but.
Well, it's just
we certainly-
authorizing the plan and authorizing them to go ahead. Is basically what it should have said.
Okay.
I did it right.
You had the referral from planning and zoning in your package too, which was a positive referral.
Yeah. Okay.
Good to go.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you want to have that one for your records.
I'll give it to,
Well, I'll get
you
it.
got an extra one, I'll give it to Denise. And she'll have it in the record. She's not the one on the shopping place. Want to go back into the order of business?
Yeah.
Okay. Make a motion to go back into the order of business.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we go on to 9A, parliamentary procedures.
No, okay. Make a motion to appoint Tim Moore as a regular member of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term expiring 10/1/2019.
Second.
Any discussions?
Yeah, for any of you that don't know, that's Ed Thrall's grandson.
I've gotten to know Lowell since he moved back to town with his wife. And he's already demonstrated an interest in getting more involved in the community, including things that we properly come before planning and zoning. I think having more people involved is definitely a good thing, no offense, guys. But I think that he would be a good addition to the board.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now I get to go on to parliamentary procedures. And as I always say, we don't interrupt people, that's parliamentary. But I thought I would talk a little bit about amending a motion, because we had some discussion of that last time. So there's just two sentences I'd like to read. It says, if an amendment is adopted, the motion is applied to changes. However, the amended motion itself is not adopted until the motion as amended is voted on and passed. If a motion is amended, if a motion to amend fails, the original motion is not changed in any way. So you have to vote twice. If you amend the motion, you vote whether you want to consider the amended motion. And if you do, then you have to go back and vote on the amended motion. We'll try to follow that procedure.
We're pretty good at that.
Okay. In the Barber Hill School. And I'll mention the next steps for the Barber Hill School. And I talked with Lori Litton, and what we've decided to do is I'm going to submit an application for a re-subdivision. To do that, we'll need a public hearing. There will be 2 notices, one 15 days before the public hearing, and one 3 to 9 days before. And then planning and zoning will change the use of the 4 acres that's now open space to a non-building lot. That's our next steps. discussion? Okay, panhandling ordinance. That's in your packet, and we rewrote it. It was Enfield's, but we changed it to fit East Windsor. Any discussion on that?
Something we should have. When we have our stone meeting. Send it forward.
Okay.
You notice all the South Windsor's panhandles have disappeared.
Go over Hartford.
Okay.
Or on Market Street, they jump out from the ring here on the bridge and panhandle along in front of traffic.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt this ordinance regarding panhandling and send it to the town meeting when town meeting is next call.
Okay, second? Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
I had a discussion.
Okay.
So we had an email exchange with the town attorney where he opines that this is unconstitutional and Paul Anderson a month ago raised the same issue. And the same court case that addresses signage on public property also addresses panhandling as speech issues. We're gonna lose this. It doesn't matter what other towns are doing. We're gonna lose this.
I think we gotta stop worrying about losing every time, okay? That's all I ever hear out of everybody's mouths. We're gonna get sued, we're gonna this, we're gonna that.
Some of this is for public safety.
I mean, it's a nuisance, okay? I hate pulling up to a stoplight, have a guy come up to me and want money on it. Okay? That really annoys the hell out of me.
Telling you guys very clearly, this has been deemed unconstitutional.
I think we ought to do it anyway and see what happens. That's what I think. You gotta stand up for something.
Just, Denise, could you make sure that that's, I appreciate that.
Pretty bad when you go to the Walmart parking lot and people are there crying and moaning and running out of gas and trying to beat everybody for money, and they do it all day long. They come up and approach people and scare the heck out of them, including my wife. We really should be proactive. Hey, if it's unconstitutional, so be it. We'll rescind it, not a big deal. We're probably never gonna have to enforce it, hopefully. Just the sheer act of having it.
I'll admit, I've given some of those people money at the parking lots that need gas money. Need gas money, I don't know.
I've offered them a job,
But
that scares them.
I've given out some money to somebody like that.
Not me, no way.
It's just, it's a nuisance, it really is.
It's a disabled vet sitting there in a wheelchair, that's a different situation.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
No.
okay.
So, the problem,
Moving on to 9F, sale of town properties. Okay, in your packet is an email I wrote 2 months ago, and if we're going to move forward, I think we'll just have to make some decisions tonight, and I'll read the email. The town of East Windsor currently has property to sell. We have attached a list of properties for sale. Most of the properties are land. Also, Capsia property on 78 Depot Street will be sold shortly. I suggest the Board of Selectmen discuss the sale of these properties at the next meeting. I have some questions regarding the sale of these properties that should be answered before we discuss the sale. And here are my questions. Section 10A-C of the town charter deals with real estate sales. Not all the properties were acquired by tax foreclosure So am I correct in saying the town meeting is required? And I think we'll say yes, that the town meeting is required. How should the town go about hiring one or more real estate agents to sell the land? And I guess what I'll do is I'll put an ad in the JI and then interview at least 3 real estate agents and go from there. Should we publish an RFP or RFQ? And I'll say no. If we do publish an RFP, well, we're not going to publish it, so that's a moot question. Will we need Joshua involved in signing the contracts for the real estate agencies? I would say no. And anything else that could be considered nothing. So that's the way we're going to proceed.
You probably should have him run by it. You know, just to make
Well,
sure.
and then I mean,
I'm not getting into a big legal issue, but you know.
he did answer this, and it is a big legal hoopla. So, I'm just gonna do this.
I really think we should try to use the real estate agents in town if at all possible.
Okay, and
I would request it from local, we've got
that's good.
realtors in the town of East Windsor.
I'll go on with that.
Right,
So shouldn't we,
tax collector is probably an important company.
Most of these, 90% of them were acquired through tax sale or foreclosure, so you don't need a realtor for them.
You do need a lawyer for a closing, instead of
Yes.
that.
Well, I mean, for the,
That's what I was
according to the charter, it says any sale of real estate, you don't need a town meeting for them.
Well, so you're saying
So,
we don't need it now,
well, for,
tax sale.
if it's a tax sale, which is a foreclosure, or acquired by foreclosure, you don't need a town meeting, according to charter.
Okay, and are all
So
the...
not all of them.
Mhm.
I would have to check, the Winter Hill Road and the North Road one and the Main Street, but the other ones were acquired either by foreclosure or tax sale.
I think we might as well go ahead. Let us sell them all.
And as for the tax sale that you're talking about, that will be sold through probate.
Okay,
Redneck is selling that one.
right, do we have to, he's gonna handle that sale then?
That's him. He's the administrator, he will handle it.
For Tapsia, right?
Yes.
Yes.
What about the others?
He's not handling it. No.
Sorry, just for that one.
Yeah. He's the administrator.
right, don't we have to get a guy to come in and appraise the value of each piece of property?
Well, we have they're assessed. So we know the approximate value of the properties, but,
And what's it cost to do that, $200, $300 to have them come in and appraise them,
okay, we can do that.
something like that? And then the realtor, I would think you would take, if 3 realtors, if he was gonna charge you the cheapest percentage.
Yeah, and also advertising, I think. we see if we can do
That's
that.
what I think, that's how that should work,
Okay.
cheapest guy.
You don't think
And the thing is, he comes in, you sit down, you sign an agreement with him. I don't see why an attorney has to be involved in doing that part.
No, maybe in his actual sale of the property.
we gotta.
Well, yeah, you'll have to do all that title search, and that'll have to be done, and all that kind of stuff, probably, you know?
If it was a buyer, we would do the title search.
But, I mean, it's not a very complicated situation to sell a piece of property.
No. So I'm just saying we're gonna move forward.
I mean, I bought property from people, and, the whole deal cost me $500. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a $15,000 expense to do this.
Some of the properties, not worth that much.
Okay, the only thing is, some of these properties we're talking about are basically, you're not gonna get hardly anybody to bid on them because they're landlocked, you can't even get near them. They're non-buildable parcels that are tenth of an acre in that. And kind of on those things, you're gonna have to take what you can get and be glad to get them back on the tax roll and get rid of the liability. Start putting appraisals on them and paying advertising fees and all that, you're gonna throw money away.
Yeah.
Because you're not, some of them, you're not, you should be lucky if you get anybody to even take them.
Yeah, and you were right, we talked a little about this before, when we said, just talk to the neighbors sometimes.
Well, like
Yeah,
in my
we
house,
might be able to do some of this with staff even, on some of these parcels.
I have a piece next to my house, it's a little triangle between me and the neighbor. Can't do a thing with it, nothing. Now, the guy that owns it, you would think that he would be to approach me or my neighbor and say, hey, which one of you guys want this thing, so I don't have to, I mean, I don't even know if he's paying the taxes on it, to be honest with you.
It isn't sure, yeah.
But I would give it away, because you can't put a doghouse on it, you know, so in those kind of instances,
If he's not paying the taxes on it, theoretically, you can go pay the taxes on it and lay claim to it.
Actually, in USA Hauling has been calling me,
Yeah.
talking to me for several months, since I took office, about one little parcel of land that would be access to their area. So there's some.
We put two dog houses on now.
Yeah, it's not.
But it's no good to anybody else.
No, it isn't.
I mean, what is it, a few hundred square feet?
Yeah,
Maybe 1,000,
yeah,
if that.
I don't have it with me, but
It's pretty small.
it is.
so something like that, you should take what they offer and just let them take it.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
start collecting the tax on, what, $10 a year you might get out of it or something.
Yeah.
Be done with it, forget about it, move on to more important things.
Okay. Further discussion?
All talked over.
Yeah. All right, so. Now, go on to 9G, discussion of sign. And,
That's what I can read here. This is really a zoning thing, isn't it?
it is, and planning and zoning, and really they had, in place, an application, that you would have to fill out to put a sign up on specific 4 pieces of public property. Bridge Street, Windsorville and Wall, Scandic and Moore Road, and Old Ellington Road in Rye. And there was controversy last fall saying that you couldn't discriminate about on signs due to the content of the sign. So if you're going to allow signs for church fair, you have to allow political signs and as freedom of speech. So this, in a sense, would allow the residents to put signs up, but it would restrict them to particular places, and the main part of the sign thing is the sign is displayed 14 days before and 7 days after the event. Signs will be placed at least 10 feet from the roadways. Signs may be displayed during the months of April through November, and signs can't obstruct vision. So if a person wants to put up, and there's some other limits, like you were saying, Jim, that right now the planning and zoning has the maximum sign size can be 12 square feet, 4 feet high. Most signs are 16 square feet, 4 feet high. That's what planning and zoning has now with a slight change. And, so if we approve this, the Board of Selectmen, then that's what our sign policy will be. We can change it, of course.
It's probably a start, right?
Yeah, I think it does allow some advertising and events that, and people have come to me and complain and say, you know, we're having a church fair, you know, why can't we put our signs up?
I don't know if we're allowed to participate or not, but since you're on this matter, I would caution, first of all, in town, right now, we can't even enforce the sign ordinances we got. We've got a bunch going up like crazy for businesses, which is bad enough because we're gonna have to retrain once we get a zoning enforcement officer. We're gonna have a lot of upset businesses because they're gonna say, well, what the hell? Second of all, my understanding of the ruling by the federal government, which caused this situation in the fall, has to do with restriction, which means you can't restrict the number, you can't restrict the content. So if I want to put something up there, screw veterans, I don't like them, you don't have the right to tell me to take it down. And you don't have the right to remove it because by sign laws, if I go onto property and remove someone else's sign, I'm committing a crime.
Okay, Jim.
So that's the question.
Why don't we wait till public participation?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So, Jim does, I'm a selectman.
You're a selectman, right.
Jim does raise a very valid point, and we had two lengthy conversations about this last fall. It is absolutely a speech issue, and was very clear in the same Supreme Court case that you guys just overruled on the panhandling ordinance, that says that you cannot restrict speech. And speech is not just spoken word, it's expression, it's anything in print, so what we didn't want to have happen is we didn't want to have town property littered with signs from a gajillion different political campaigns, Democrats and Republicans, all littering up the side of the road, or being put on school property, which is also not exempted under the law, or having insulting or disrespectful commentary, like Mr. Richards pointed out, posted also on school property was actually what the discussion revolved around. By allowing any of it anywhere, you have to allow all of it everywhere. And that's why the board at the time decided that we weren't going to do that. And that we don't want to have people putting anything on schools. Well, we can't restrict that if we allow anything there. So the same holds true with the corner over here where everybody puts the campaign signs. If you're going to allow anybody to do anything, you have to allow everybody to do that. And that's, I think this is nuts. And I think that by including that we're going to allow it from April to November, we're specifically allowing for that type of thing that we were all concerned about 6 months ago.
Nobody in this room, I believe, is a lawyer.
It's Reed v. the Town of Guilford. Reed v. the Town of Guilford.
No. I hear what you're saying, and we can postpone this and read the Town of Guilford. When it's a case.
Reed versus the Town of Guilford. And I have read the case. I haven't read it in the last couple of weeks, but when we talked about this last fall, I did read the case, and I read the opinion.
In my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer, but if you're fair to everybody, then that is acceptable.
Yes.
So if you don't have to have signs on schools, you can say no signs on schools, and what we've listed is 4 places you can put signs, and that's fair. And we're not restricting anybody to put any sign they want there. We're just having some regulation of those signs, and I believe the town can regulate.
We can't regulate it.
You can regulate the size of signs, and you can regulate where signs are put.
Yes, you can't regulate the contents.
And then I would disagree with that too, because there are certain signs that are hatred that is against the law, and the law does restrict certain expression of, so I think there's debate here. And I think that residents do want to have the ability to put signs up, and if there is a question of the sign, I think we can deal with that.
So is it fair then for, hello, good morning. So would it be fair then for, let's think about this, Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson is a candidate for presidency presidency of the United States. Is it fair for him to, and that's true, he is, he's an independent candidate for the president of the United States. Is it fair for him to litter, or his campaign to litter all of town property, and even though there's 4 people in the town who all have a stake in that town property, who would then have to, there's 4 people in town who support him, when everybody has a stake in that town. So is it fair for, to those people, to everybody but the 4, to say that I don't want Gary Johnson's name on the property? If we're gonna allow any candidate's name, we have to allow every candidate's name.
What I would say is that this regulation says that if a person fills out this form, comes and fills out the form, and says it's for the election of Gary, and he does it 14 days before the event, the election, and fills it up within 7 days, and puts, I think there's a limit to, it says here, if you can put 3 signs on Bridge Street and Main Street, and at Old Ellington and Rye, he can put 2 signs. He could do that, and if somebody else wants to put a sign, I don't know if you want to put a sign for Trump, but
I haven't taken down on election day.
I'm just joking. But you could fill out this form too and put up a sign for Trump.
So, would then, under this proposal between the months of April and November, if last year there was a pro-gun range group that wanted to have their sign on town property, would it have been permissible for them? Could we have denied them the opportunity, even though there was a vote of the town saying that
No.
we opposed it?
No.
And how do you think that would have gone over?
How
How long do you think the sign would have been there?
questions I don't have to answer, Jason.
Sure.
One, public signs are exempt, so if the Board of Selectmen or zoning or anything orders a sign to be put, that can be put. Institutional signs are also exempt. And rental signs are exempt, and there's a couple more things. The key to it is, I agree with Jason on this, what do we want? If we start this, we're opening the door. I think we're better off, let's keep the clutter out of the town, and I don't think they want a bunch of them down there on the green where the veterans are trying to put up a setup. If they wish to put a sign up there, now that's considered an institution or a public, take your choice. And they're exempt, it's right in the ordinance, on the 2nd page we got.
Well,
I don't think we should be doing a darn thing.
okay, if that's easy to do.
They always seem to fall at the town garage anyway, I don't know. But most of those are informational signs for the church, vote today, vote this week, or that kind of thing, which is actually exempt from the regulation as written, anyway.
Well, you know, I don't know if they're exempt or not. Well, they're exempt, why aren't political signs exempt?
I think they are,
Oh, okay.
but it doesn't say, I don't know if we have the whole ordinance or not, because there's only 1 page, and it cuts off at, you'd have to get the book and make sure, because it cuts off at F on rental signs. And page 51 may have some more information on it from the regulations. I don't think there's a need to do a darn thing except let the zone do their job.
Okay. Good opinion. What do you think?
I'm all aware.
But if somebody wants to put stuff up on the green that has profanity on it, you're telling me he has the right to do that?
Tell them, you can't tell them you can't.
I don't believe that for a second.
So there's a Supreme Court case I would ask you to look up in addition to Reed v. Gilbert. It's laced with profanity, so I'm not gonna tell you what it says now, but it's Wheeler v. California, 1973. And it basically says that, well, I'm not gonna say what it says because there's a video camera in the room. But you cannot restrict expression in written or spoken form in public place. That's all the Wendell homes. This is a little bit more,
No, you're really renting. You get you for the site of Ryan.
Okay, well, does somebody want to make a motion to, you just want to not vote?
Maybe you don't want it for a while.
Okay, we'll vote on this tonight. Is that okay? Or should somebody want to make a motion? We can make a motion.
No motion, it dies.
Okay, no further discussion, we'll move on to the next item. And that is the 250th anniversary, so I wrote an email and copied it to the board of selectmen, and I also wrote it to John Burham and Kurt Farnstrom, who's here. So maybe if you guys could come up to the table and talk a little about the 250th anniversary one.
Sure.
Maybe we can get a press release to find out who's interested in.
Well, and also, I'll finish, I'll read the email I sent out, because the 250th anniversary of these things will be on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen meeting Tuesday, the 17th. I hope to form an exploratory group and set a time for a place for a meeting. I would also like to discuss some ideas and get some feedback from people in the audience, so we can have some participation. I have addressed email to people which I have email addresses for, and who I think might be interested in the 250th anniversary and planning the 250th anniversary celebration. And I said, ask this email be forwarded to anybody else who might be interested. So, what do you think?
I'm sorry?
I think it's a wonderful. 1968, did the 200th. I was 13. We need to do something as good or better, as good. Those guys did a terrific job. And it's, I think the town needs to start planning this now. I'm representing the Eastman's Historical Society. We're all for it, and we'd like to be part of it. And I'll turn it over to you for a second, Kurt.
Sure, I think it's a great idea. I think we should have a committee formed, get ideas going, just start putting stuff down on paper. I don't quote me, but I think Holland just had their 300th anniversary. We should grab them, and I mean, steal their ideas and just make them our own. And I think the town should get ready to spend some money too, put it aside, and for like the stuff that's made this town great, like the trolley museum, have like a free, it doesn't have to be free for the summer, but should be a couple of nights to get every, if it's all the Cub Scouts or whatever, every school kid, everybody should be given an opportunity to ride the trolley or have a picnic on the far end have donated, I don't know, I'm sure the trolley museum would love to host stuff like that. It's probably not gonna, but the town should somehow, and I know it's tight budget season even now, but we should somehow get our wagons together to have a nice town function. High publicity, a lot of people in this room here, a lot of pride, just do a lot of cool things. Use all the cool stuff, the reservoir, and with the Historical Society, you guys have your own campus there, that should be a focal point of it at some point.
Should I?
And I don't think we should have 10 parades, but the ones that do happen, we should have one, get all the churches involved, I'm sure they would love to do it all. But like John mentioned, you gotta have a beard growing contest, the whole 9 yards. And all the, everything, all those, like I said, there's a lot of other towns that are a little ahead of us that I've heard great things about. Get all the input out that we can, get it all written down and make it happen.
I like that.
So, John and I had a conversation a few weeks ago about kicking the gears into place for this. And I reached out to a friend of mine who used to be involved in politics in Holland, and he gave me the name of the person who ran their committee. So we're all set to go and buy him a cup of coffee and So you're in.
Bring some cigars and
So,
coffee.
So you guys are gonna volunteer to be on the committee to get it started?
I would actually move that we create an ad hoc committee for the purpose of planning. Start with that.
Gotta begin it. It's up to you two guys to start communicating to us,
So
really.
Jason's gonna contact me, that's the start,
All right.
and we'll go from there.
If he doesn't do it, I'll
Yeah.
give him a few days. Okay. Next on the agenda is the fire marshal's April report. And I put that in there because Dale was asking for it. And it's there, and he's gonna do it every month from now on. So we should have it at the first meeting of the month. Maybe I can send it out, maybe we don't have to have it as an agenda. Any discussion about the fire?
It's good to have it, because if the public has any questions, yeah, well, the fire marshal was here and such and such, and they, good for the public to see.
Okay, now we're down to the Broadbrook Mill Site remediation, and I had a slideshow, Dot.
I'll be back.
This is a slideshow that was, I guess, shown in August of this past year, so somebody who's seen it, and we'll go through it real quick. This is the site of the Broadbrook Mill. And this is August 11, 2015, so this is some things they were doing. And we'll see some pictures. They created a fence, and it's all fenced off now. Here's some pictures of the site. Some brush that they got, and there's a garage there that they're planning to take down, I think. And here's a map of the site, but there'll be more coming. There's Main Street, and it's just off of Main Street, which you probably know back through the condo building, that's the first building we saw. And groundwater problems. And then that's the direction the water flows. And there's Broadbrook kind of going on the north side and the west side. And some history. One point, I guess there's a lot of coal ash there. Cannery operations cause smoke pollution and volatile organic compounds. I'm not sure what those are. Hope it's not nitroglycerin. And chromium seems to be a problem in other metals. And, it's interesting that Connecticut DEP is working on it, and also the Environmental Protection Agency, so really that's what gives us the teeth to keep moving on this project. And if you notice here, there's excavation areas, so there's some right there and there and there. Three areas that they found something there they wanted to remove. And then groundwater injections, air injections, extractions.
Did they remove the stuff that they should have removed?
Well, they're working on it. They've been working on it for 20 years.
Do you have anything recent? Because they were supposed to update that plan.
Yeah, okay, I do. And so this is 6 months old.
Right.
And
Through the winter, like by January, they were supposed to have an updated remediation plan.
Well, okay, let me just go through this photograph. Just a few more pictures. This is kind of, what's happening. I'll come back to this.
That's just the font size.
Yeah, okay. But, so, and to answer your questions, I do have some documentation. Okay, this is a email I got from Matthew Pansiera, and I got it May 11th. It says, I spoke with Bill Penn, UTC project manager for this site, and the company that's doing the remediation is, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, I'll call it AECOM, it's AECOM. And Matthew Pansiera is in charge of our site cleanup, but he seems to report to this Bill Penn, so he said, who UTC owns the site. So I spoke with Bill Penn, UTC project manager for this site, and copied him on this email. He okayed the sharing of the slides with you for the upcoming board meeting. These were the slides presented to several folks, including regulators at the town hall last August. The slides are still accurate in summary of the site. As noted on page 21, some additional investigation work has been completed and remediation approach is currently being evaluated. The final approach will protect human health and environmental in accordance with state and Connecticut requirements. We are in the process of completing this evaluation, developing remedial action plan addendum, and expect to reach out to the town once we have finished this evaluation and presented it to the Connecticut DEP and the EPA. So they're still developing that remediation plan that you talked about. So that's not complete.
So in the handout that was included in our packet, it's like 8 or 10 different bullet points that are listed. This is the document dated April 27th. The very last bullet says the next bi-monthly progress report summarizing project activities conducted during May and June of 2016 will be submitted to the CT, DEP, and US EPA by the end of June 2016. With that, so I would ask two things. One, could we get that bi-monthly progress report for May and June when it's finalized? And the other thing is, the wording implies that they have continued to do bi-monthly progress reports up to now. So could we get the last one? The one that would, I guess, include March and April?
We're getting into that.
Yeah, you got the April one. I have the
Where's the
December
April
one.
Was that what this is?
Yeah,
page
April
is?
27th. Wow.
No, that's not what this is. This is just a memo outlining their activities. This isn't the,
Wow.
this is the totality of the progress report?
What is it, doesn't it say on an April 2016 bi-monthly progress report?
In the subject line, yeah.
Well, I think that's what it is.
How about this? Can we ask them to come in and present their progress report to us? They've done that in the past.
Well, how about this? They by June, they're gonna have, in fact, let me read another email. I'm gonna read you another email. This email is May 10th, and it's from Kristen Lozico, and she apparently works for this Matthew Pansiera. And she wrote this to Lori Whitten, and it says, permits required for Broadbrook Mill site. We are trying to plan for an upcoming remediation efforts to take place on the Broadbrook Mill site. And I had questions pertaining to the requirements of the town of East Windsor. This project will likely involve excavation work within the wetlands and possibly soil mixing and injection. We know we will need the following permits: Town of East Windsor earth removal filling permit, Town of East Windsor inland wetland environmental commission permit. Does the town require soil erosion, sedimentary control, flood hazard zone development permit? I have the response that Lori Whitney made to that, if you want to hear it. But the thing is, right now, they're developing a remediation plan. And all they're gonna, if they get in next week or next month, they'd say, we're developing it. But they are gonna send it to the DEP and the EPA within the next 2 months. And they'll have a complete plan, and they will come in. And also, Lori invited them in her email to come in after she returns from vacation and meet with us and talk with us, but not as a presentation, but rather just to understand what they're doing and how they're going to get to where they want to go. But
So they have presented to us in the past, and the response, no, and Steve, this was your project. This was your priority when we first got it.
My opinion on this right here, reading this, all they're doing is they're dragging their feet because they don't want to spend the money that's gonna cost to fix this.
And if that
That's
is well
what,
be
that's
the
what
case,
this is telling me. This is BS right here.
if that is the case, then that's exactly right. We need to be, as a town, putting their feet to the fire, saying that this is not a bad
No, you need to
priority.
start, well, I don't want to use the word threatening, but we have a health hazard.
We're still paying attention.
We have a health hazard over there that needs to be fixed. They got plenty of money, they can come in and they can fix this thing quick, but they're dragging their feet, and that's all this is.
I agree.
This is BS right here. And if I was talking to them, they wouldn't like me. They wouldn't like me at all.
Then why don't you all invite them to come to the
You know?
meeting, so you all come?
I mean, that building there supposedly is leaking, it's falling down, and those nice apartments, I guess they got issues now with the leaky roof. That would have made a beautiful town hall for us.
I think it's been a year and a half, at least, since the last time they were here. I think it was midway through our first term when they came in.
Yeah, they were in here.
Yeah, and there was somebody from Hamilton, there was there was somebody from DEP, and was it EPA? So, I think a year and a half is plenty of time to be thinking about the plan. I want to know what the plan is, and when the action starts.
They're not, they're gonna keep giving you this stuff, saying, well, we're looking at this, and
Well,
we're
this is a
looking at that.
one-page document.
Yeah, but this says what they've done, like in these months here.
The hard thing is, this is the season for them to be doing anything.
They should be out there working like crazy, getting ready for the show.
Well,
I've been reading out Lori's response, but you should.
Okay, I'll read Lori's
They're
response.
gonna need a wetlands permit, because they're working within the wetlands or within 150 feet. They're gonna need a zoning permit. When are they gonna start? You're talking 2 months from the time they apply. By the time you can run it through the wetlands, and if you do it concurrently, you're still looking at the end of the month, the end of basically the construction season before you can start. And then you don't wanna start.
If we wait until their next quarterly report is submitted to DEP and EPA, then their response is gonna be, well, it's too late now, it's almost winter time.
Sure, that's exactly what it's gonna be, but now, another question is, I know we can't tell them, but who's gonna tell the Wetlands Commission and Zoning Board, you better move, you better okay these things so that they can get moving on these?
They have nothing to move on.
They can't.
They
They have to
2
get
months,
the
they're gonna tell us
permits.
they need 2 more
You
months
know,
to
they
get
have
the
to
next
get
plan.
the permits, they can't argue with them at 15 different meetings.
Because it'll be EPA approved and DEP approved.
I was wondering, can they step in and take authority over the town?
I think
If it's
it
an
would be,
emergency, they could.
I think we would be very remiss to take no action on this. I think that would be a failure of this board to not be pushing this.
Time to get something going.
I'd entertain a motion to form a committee to look into this. I have other things.
Voters already made that comment.
I'm willing to wait 2 months. If any of you guys who are enthused about this wish to form a committee of 2 or 3 people, be my guest. Call up all these people, yell at them, get them mad at you. Have at it.
Board of Selectmen for?
Do it then.
I don't work for you.
You carry the heat, Bob. You're the one to listen to.
Okay.
So could we just go so far as to say, we're gonna ask them to come to the next selectmen's meeting?
I'll ask them to come to the next one.
Tell them bring an application for the women's, let's get started.
You know, really, I mean, this is renting. This is renting, just look at it.
That's what it
They
is.
promised that they were gonna be beyond that by January.
You know what this reminds me
January,
of?
what
I will
year?
gladly pay you Tuesday for a cheeseburger today. It's that old cartoon, what is that, Popeye?
Come on, you know who that was.
Popeye was several generations before.
That's right.
You remember that, no,
Giving me spinach.
Spectrum.
No, they're not doing anything for them because they're not having a fire under their ass. They're doing it.
You're right.
All right, so I think the only way that they're gonna get moving on it is you're gonna have to threaten them, make some legal action. Okay, we have a health issue here going on, it's your property, get it straightened out. Stop playing around, they got the money to do it. They've got the money. to
Never
do
mind
it.
that, it's an eyesore in the center of town. Whether it's a health issue or not, if it was a health issue, they would have been pushing a lot harder from higher up than us.
No, they're not gonna. They're not gonna, unless they're pushed, they're not gonna do anything. That's the way how these big companies work. Okay, it's just sitting here and nobody cares about it. And, unless they're pushed, they're not gonna do anything. You know, with a company like that, that's a drop in the bucket.
For sure, we're not gonna have a tax sale and end up on it, so get that out of your head.
Have them clean it up and then let's take it. Let's take it.
Okay, can we move on to the next?
Let's let it be 50 years down the road. Yeah, let's.
So we're gonna invite them to our next meeting, right? That's where we're leaving this?
Yes, I will send them an email inviting you to the next meeting.
Invite the DEP and the feds too, not that they'll show up, but maybe that'll get some action.
People show up.
Yeah, they will.
EPA's gotta come from Boston, right?
You know. Oh, yes, they will. Remember that. Maybe it's time.
You say, came over to my place, you ought to be able to come down here for this. Your boss.
Okay, let's move on to the next subject. The next agenda item is 10E, discussion of landscaping at a couple of the locations in East Windsor. And Jason sent me an email with a letter from Donna Grant.
Yep.
You want to talk about that, or would you like me to?
So the general gist of this issue, this is a constituent request. So the Welcome to East Windsor sign in the Melrose section of town is not on town property, it's on private property. And the people, as I understand it, who own the property and who are maintaining it, have to cross Broadbrook Road, and they are in their late 80s or early 90s. And I just, the question was raised to me, that I'm bringing to all of us, that is there something that can be done to alleviate this situation? So, throwing it out there, I think that we would all agree that it is a serious safety concern to have somebody who's in their 80s crossing Broadbrook Road on a lawnmower, which is the situation that's happening now. And I don't believe I'm taking any liberties there at all. I think that's exactly the situation that's happening. So, what can we do for these people?
Also, I'd like to bring up that, that someone needs to mow the grass at the skate park.
Okay.
that, I guess, is not, even though it's town property, Lenny feels that when the state skate park was made several years ago, they agreed to landscape it themselves. And now, much the same thing, that the person who was doing the landscaping is an older person, and to get a riding mower down there, you have to put it on his trailer or whatever, and get it down there, he can't do it anymore. So, although they have people over 18 who are willing to do that, the mowing, because I guess the town doesn't allow people under 18 to do it, we can't get the equipment there to do it. So it's a similar situation with the grants. We could probably get volunteers to mow it, but it's a question of getting equipment there. So I would say we can advertise on Facebook and at this meeting we can ask for volunteers, and maybe the website, if we can get some volunteers to do it. That's one idea approach. If we get someone to bring some equipment, we can get some people to do it. So, and I actually talked to Selma Grant yesterday, and that's her sign or her property, and she just can't maintain it anymore. And she was saying it'd be nice if it was good looking for Memorial Day, because the Memorial Day parade is down at the Melrose School in the cemetery. So it would be nice to get the sign looking good for Memorial Day. So
Why can't the people who mow the schools and mow the park and take care of the area over there by the Broadwood Pond there, where it's got that little dedication for Ralph Lynn and other areas of the town that they mow, why in the world can't they go and mow those places and take care of them? The sign is maybe on someone else's property, but it's advertising for East Windsor, and they were decent enough to let the sign go up there. I think we should, I mean, I'm sure these people are not that busy, they can't go and mow these little places and get the job done when they do everything else around here.
yeah, in fact, that brings up another thing. The grants said that they would rent, lease that property to us around the sign for $1 a year. So that would, in a sense, allow the town to, certainly they could mow the rental property. So I kind of agree with you.
So what's wrong with that?
Look at that, Phil, trying to get money off us already.
You know, dollar.
Yeah. I'm gonna need a little bit.
What did Lenny say?
Lenny, I suppose, he said, I didn't talk to him about grants, because that's not even our property. He didn't feel that he should do the skate park. But I think if we as a board approve the mowing or landscaping of the skate park and the grants property, and maybe we have to rent it for $1 a year. And I think we can do that. I mean, it's not going to be that much of an expense. And it's well, for that, but for the mowing, we hire people, I think, for $13 an hour, maybe $16 an hour, summer seasonal help. And so I think that's a reasonable expense.
They're here anyway.
First thing we gotta do is authorize the lease, which would be ideal, because that solves
Okay.
a liability issue.
All right, we can vote on that if you want to make a motion.
I did.
All right,
Make a motion that we lease the property from the Grant family for the Welcome to East Windsor sign,
okay,
for the big sum of $1 a year.
Second,
okay, further discussion?
very
Do
complicated stuff.
we have a lease?
We don't have a lease, but we can engage in a lease, as the Board of Selectmen can say we're going to engage in a lease for $1 a year with,
Lease, rent, whatever you want to do.
And how much of the property are we going to lease?
Enough for the sign and for the town property.
Probably 50 square feet.
We don't want to waste that whole field. take care of it.
No.
No,
That was
they
my-
Johnny cuts A on it.
That was my concern, is, well,
10 feet either side of the sign, so. That's 50.
Well, it's gotta, but, we gotta lease that corner,
Yeah.
the whole corner, so we can keep the visibility, which is probably a little more than that, but not much.
All right.
10 feet behind the sign or 5 feet behind
Yeah.
the sign and the corner.
Okay, I think we can do that. So it's moved and seconded.
so the plan then is we're going to lease that property for $1 a year, assuming the grants are okay with that, and then the town will maintain that.
Yeah.
That's a separate, we're gonna lease the property, and then our next motion will
Next
be
motion
not
will be the-
town will maintain those two properties.
Yeah, Lenny will love us for this. He got his full-time person.
Okay, further discussion? All right, all those in favor of leasing the land for $1 a year?
Aye.
Okay. Now, a second motion to have Lenny maintain the skate park, or the the public works maintain the skate park and the leased land from the grant.
Oh, wait a minute, now we're slipping the skate park into the grant deal.
Yeah, yeah.
No, let's do the grant deal separate.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we have Public Works maintain the leased property around the Welcome to East Windsor side.
Second.
Second.
Okay, some discussion?
Are there any liability concerns with leased property?
Covered under the town,
Is?
it'll be covered under our blanket policy. It's the ideal situation. And if you did it voluntary and we leased it and somebody got hurt, yeah, you're open for a lawsuit.
And Bob, when you spoke with Lenny, you didn't have any opinions on this either way?
I didn't speak a little about owning the grant.
You have something to say about it. It's very minor.
What could he possibly say about sending someone out there with a weed whacker and mowing that grass?
It's
That'll
time.
take about 10 minutes.
It's time.
I don't care if it's time. He works for the town. He's
We-
told what,
we-
he's
we need
told
to
what-
do that.
He's told what to do. You got grass to mow, go mow the grass. God almighty, God, you question things to death, analyze everything to death, and that's why nothing gets done in East Windsor.
I'm really overprepared.
You are.
So Beckett, second?
Second.
Let's get it done.
Further discussion?
You should have been saying second twice, right? Yeah.
All right, what about the park?
Okay, we'll vote on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now the skate park. Do we want the grass mowed at the skate park by Lenny or not?
Yes.
I thought those were being taken care of by the people that formed that.
Not anymore.
We just said they were all too old. That was said. They're all
What
getting
does
old.
is there an agreement between sorry to be overly
Yes,
prepared.
there is.
Is there an agreement between the skate park people and the town which outlines who's responsible for what?
Yes,
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure there is. We need to look at that first.
Why?
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 Because that thing was supposed to be done with.
Oh, well,
with
let's
their
just
funds
let it
and
grow
taken
into a
care of.
field and then let it degenerate.
Yeah, that was the next thing.
Yeah.
And they maybe we'll call up, Eaton.
We own the land that these things set on, right? We own the land. It's ours. They've got permission to use it.
Yeah, but I don't know what the agreement is for them to use. Is there a yearly fee associated with it? Is there,
I don't think there's a fee.
are we responsible for maintenance of the infrastructure there?
Not yet.
So, that's why I'm saying, like, we should read the agreement.
Okay, let's table this.
That one wouldn't be bad, because they're already at the park, just go across the street and take a couple of passes. It's the principle.
They do give
Well,
us
and
a
the other thing that happens, two things that happen is the dog park comes next, and the second thing that happens is once
And
we
the
start,
community gardens.
once we start maintaining the grass at the skate park or the dog park, and people who
All right,
have privately
hey.
fundraised for that,
We're getting out of control, and I should have had it before. I mean, public participation is public participation. And when we were discussing the Broadbrook Mill site, I thought it was okay to have questions and discussion, but now this is out of control. And so, right now, deciding on what we're gonna do, we as a selectmen, and with the skate park, and let us go forward with that, and then after that, we'll have our reports, and then we'll have our public participation.
So, in addition to the next, the next step forward being, once we take over doing the skate park, we're then gonna be asked at some point to do the dog park and to do the community garden, which in either of those instances, those are not the worst things in the world. What is the worst thing, or what is getting there anyway, is that you now have organizations that have privately fundraised for the infrastructure that has gone up for the skate park, for the dog park, for the community garden, who are sooner or later gonna get mad at us about the way that we're maintaining it or not maintaining it, and that becomes the slippery slope that we don't wanna go down. So that's why I'm saying, what does the agreement say?
I have not seen the agreement, so I don't know.
I haven't either. I've never seen it.
So maybe we need to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it was signed that many years ago.
Okay,
I know it was agreed.
any further discussion? All right, now,
So, but just to sum up the grants and the issues that I brought up about, our intention is to lease that for a year, for $1 a year, and then we'll maintain it.
that's correct.
Needs to happen.
Okay, and now an added agenda item, the budget. We now, the selectmen, can talk about the budget. Is there anything you want to say
Well,
about
I
it?
brought it up, nobody seems to want to talk about it because you don't have the whole group here. But I wanted to talk about it because if it's the 1.84, it would be in the best interest of the town to go ahead and vote for this thing. I would vote for that. And save the town, what is it, $3,500 a whack every time it goes out?
Maybe more, yeah.
More than that.
All right, I thought it was like 3 of them, like 10 fires. Okay. But I understand the state cut us. The other thing I had mentioned was the money that the town had from the fire district. But I guess it about equals the same amount of money as what the state is cutting us. And I was concerned where that money was going, if it was gonna be like a, I don't know how to put it, a fake budget, where you're taking the money out of your extra money just to keep the taxes down for the people, which is really not a good thing to do. But we're using that money to make up for the money that the state took away from us. I really don't see the problem with that in my eyes, maybe other people will. But I will vote for a 1.84 budget. That's what it really is. And I'm going on what you told me, Jim, okay, when I speak like this.
Straight from the lips.
Okay, so, I just want to advise the people to vote the thing, and let's do it twice and be done with it. I mean, there's some things that people don't like. I don't like the fact that the poor library down here didn't get a dime. They should have got at least something, like they got before, at least. And then the youth center, they trying to help these kids and help them, and maybe keep some kids from getting into trouble. They didn't get any money, that aggravates me. But voting no on this, it's not gonna change any of that. It's gonna still stay the same. So we might as well vote on it, get it over with, and move on. That's basically what I want to talk about. That's it. Just, my opinion is vote for this thing and get it over with. Let's move on.
Okay, any further discussion on the budget? Okay, we'll go on to selectmen reports. Jason, you're up.
It's been a quiet few weeks. The budget process from a deliberative standpoint anyway is largely kind of quieted down, which is nice. On Wednesday, the Planning and Zoning Commission scheduled to meet last week, did not meet, they didn't have business before them, so they canceled their meeting. On Wednesday, the 11th, I attended the board Board of Finance workshop after the defeat of Tuesday's referendum. The next referendum, which is scheduled for next Tuesday, which is the 21st, no, 4th, will have a budget increase, a spending increase of 1.82%. That means the Board of Finance has now trimmed nearly $1 million from what was submitted to them by the Boards of Selectmen and Education. Those are not easy decisions to make, I can say having been there. And the Board of Finance continues to do the hard work of finding a budget that meets the needs of our town and balances the willingness of the town to pay for it. So I again, want to thank them for the good work that they've done over the course of this budget cycle. Last night I attended the East Windsor Housing Authority. They did sign a pilot extension for 1 more year, which is good for them, good for us. Next Tuesday is the next budget referendum. I encourage everybody to vote. On June 4th, there will be a bench dedication in memory of Nancy Fortin, the lady in red, who's actually a resident of the East Windsor Housing Authority, which I didn't know until very recently. That bench dedication will be on June 4th at 11 a.m. at the East Windsor Park. And on the 14th, the East Windsor Ag Commission will be holding a forum pertaining to pollinator health, which is a pretty timely issue for agriculture all over the country. It will be at 6 p.m. at Scout Hall and is open to the public. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah?
Okay. On the 4th, with the Inland Wetlands Commission, they had a discussion on the Batcher Corporation wants to build a new